Level 1, 500. The number sits at the bottom of a screen you didn't ask to see. A dealership finance manager turns his monitor toward you like he's showing you a photograph of something dead. 500. You knew it was bad. You didn't know it had a number attached, a number that other people can see before they've heard you speak a single word. He doesn't say much. He doesn't have to. His face already told you the car isn't happening today. Not this car. Not any car on this lot. He mentions a buy here, pay here place 2 exits down. He says it the way you'd give directions to a place you'd never go yourself. You drive home in the car that's already dying, the one with 190,000 miles that brought you here in the first place. You apply for an apartment that weekend. The property manager runs your name through a system on her tablet, and her expression doesn't change, but her sentences get shorter. She mentions a cosigner. She mentions an additional deposit, 2 months instead of 1. She doesn't say the word risk. She doesn't need to. You already know that's what you are now on paper to people who will never meet you. You get a credit card offer in the mail. The APR is 29.99%. The limit is $300. You laugh once, short, not really a laugh. This is what's available to you at 500. Not opportunity. Just the most expensive version of no. You call about a phone plan upgrade. The rep asks for your account number, then goes quiet for 4 seconds while something loads. When she comes back, her voice has a different shape to it. Careful, rehearsed. She offers you a plan with a deposit requirement. You didn't do anything today. You didn't miss a payment today. The number followed you into a room you hadn't even asked it to enter. The first rule, at 500, you're not being punished for something you did. You're being priced for something you might do, and the system decided that months ago. Level 2, 580. Nothing dramatic happened. You just paid things on time for a while. 11 months actually, though you didn't count until the number moved. You check it on an app that didn't exist the last time you thought about credit seriously. 80 points. You stare at it like it should feel like more than it does. It doesn't feel like anything yet because nothing outside the screen has changed. You apply for a card again. Same bank, different result. Approved. Limit $1,000. APR still brutal, 26.99%, but the door opened this time instead of shutting in your face. You take it as a sign of something, though you're not sure what. You get denied for an apartment upgrade you were hopping for, a nicer unit, same complex. The reason given is vague, does not meet current criteria. You call to ask what that means. The person on the phone reads from a script that doesn't actually answer the question. You hang up and sit with the specific frustration of being told no by a number you can't argue with, negotiate with, or explain yourself to. You're not invisible anymore, not completely. You're just not trusted yet either. The second rule, 580 doesn't open doors. It just makes the no's sound a little more apologetic. Level 3, 650. You cross into what one banker calls the good range without much ceremony. You didn't feel a shift. The shift happened to how forms treat you. A car loan gets approved same day, no cosigner, no security deposit, an actual interest rate instead of a penalty dressed up as one. 9.8%. Not great. Livable. You buy the car and drive it home and something in your chest loosens slightly. The specific relief of a decision that didn't require begging. You get pre-approved for a credit card with a $3,000 limit and 19% APR. Mailed unprompted. Your name spelled correctly. No fine print threatening a deposit. You apply for an apartment and the property manager doesn't mention a cosigner. She mentions move-in specials instead, the first conversation in years where you're being sold to instead of screened. You notice the tone in customer service calls shift too, not warm exactly, but efficient, competent, like the system has decided you're worth processing quickly instead of holding at arm's length. You didn't become a different person. You paid the same bills you always paid, just longer without missing one. The third rule, 650 doesn't make the system like you. It just stops treating you like a threat. Level 4, 720. The mortgage broker calls you back the same day, and this alone feels foreign, the speed of it. He says the word, qualified, 3 times in one conversation like it's a compliment he's personally proud of. Your rate on a $250,000 home loan comes in at 6.1%. The guy who ran your numbers a year earlier at 650 would have quoted you 7.4% on the same house. The difference is $220 a month, every month, for 30 years, and none of it came from you working harder. It came from a number climbing while you weren't looking. Credit card offers start arriving with actual perks now: cash back, no annual fee, a $10,000 limit that feels absurd compared to the $300 card from 4 years ago. You get a call from your existing bank, unprompted, offering to refinance your car loan at a lower rate. Nobody offered you anything at 500. At 720, things start finding you. A rental application processes in an hour. No deposit beyond the standard one. No mention of risk. You realize you haven't been asked to prove anything in months. You're just believed now by default until proven otherwise. The fourth rule: 720 doesn't earn you special treatment. It earns you the treatment everyone assumed banks gave out equally all along. Level 5, 780. The letters start arriving with your name in raised print, not printed flat like the others. Platinum this, premium that. A card with a $15,000 limit and a 0% intro APR for 18 months shows up unsolicited. You didn't apply. You didn't ask. The system looked at your number and decided you were worth the risk of extending credit before you even wanted it. You refinance the mortgage from 4 years ago, and the new rate is a full point lower than before, not because rates dropped, though they did a little, but because your number moved into a tier the bank reserves better pricing for. The loan officer mentions this explicitly, almost casually, the way someone mentions a fact they assume you already know. You get denied nothing this year. Not once. No application, no inquiry, no request results in a no. You've forgotten what waiting for an answer feels like. A car dealership calls you back about a lease you inquired about a week ago, not to chase you, to tell you they held the rate they quoted even though it expired for other customers. Small deference. Quiet, but real. The fifth rule: 780 doesn't make you rich. It just removes friction from every transaction you'll ever make involving someone else's money. Level 6, 820. You apply for a jumbo mortgage on a second property, and the underwriter approves it in 9 days. A process that takes most people 6 weeks. Nobody explains why. Nobody has to. The file moved because the number attached to it moved things automatically, without anyone advocating on your behalf. You get a call from a private banking division you didn't know your bank had. They mention relationship pricing, a phrase that means nothing until you realize it means the rules bend slightly when the number is high enough. Your insurance premium drops at renewal, unprompted, a notice in the mail explaining your rate reflects improved risk profile. You didn't change your driving. You didn't change your home. The number did the negotiating you never had to do yourself. A landlord waives the security deposit entirely on a $4,000 a month rental, an amount that would have required 2 months' deposit and a cosigner at 500. He mentions your score directly, almost admiringly, like it's a credential instead of just a number. The sixth rule: 820 doesn't buy you things. It buys other people's confidence that you'll pay for the things you buy. Level 7, 850. The number stops moving. There's nowhere left for it to go, and the strange part is nothing changes because of that ceiling. You still get pre-approved offers you didn't ask for. You still get rates a fraction of a point lower than the person at 820, a difference so small it's almost symbolic, proof rather than benefit. A private banker calls to discuss optimizing your credit utilization, a conversation that exists purely to protect a number that's already perfect, the way someone polishes a trophy that isn't going anywhere. You realize the number stopped being about access somewhere around 780. Everything you needed, it already gave you. What 850 gives you instead is something quieter, a kind of institutional fluency, the sense that every system built to judge you has already decided, permanently, that you're fine. Somewhere right now, someone sits across from a finance manager who turns a monitor toward them. 500. Their face doesn't change, but their sentences get shorter. They don't know yet that the number isn't a verdict on who they are. It's a number that moves the same way for anyone who stops missing payments and starts paying attention, the same slow arithmetic climbing quietly in the background of a life that feels, for now, like it's standing still. The seventh rule: the score was never about your character. It was only ever about your pattern, and patterns are the one thing anyone can change, one on-time payment at a time.